Remember those quiet nights when someone would read you a story just before sleep? Good evening, friends. I'm Mr. Narratory, and I'll be your voice tonight as we drift gently towards sleep. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep a little easier, consider liking and subscribing. It really means a lot. Tell me in the comments, what time is it for you right now? And do you have any little bedtime rituals? Now, settle in, get comfortable, close your eyes if you'd like, because it's time for tonight's story. I bought the baby monitor for my dog. That's not a sentence I ever expected to say, but that's what happens when you live alone long enough. Your priorities shift. It was cheap, barely used, listed online by a woman who said her toddler had outgrown it. $40. Black and white video, motion and sound detection, plus remote audio. I didn't even need half those features. I just wanted to check in on Harvey while I was at work. He's a rescue, high anxiety, jumps at thunderstorms and his own reflection, so I figured it might help to talk to him now and then through the speaker, let him know I was still around. The first few days were fine. I set the camera up on the bookshelf in the living room, angled down toward the couch where he usually napped. The feed went straight to my phone. The app was bare bones grainy live video, a blinking mic icon, volume toggle. I'd check in during lunch, sometimes hit the talk button and say, "Hey bud," if he looked restless. He always perked up when he heard my voice. That part worked exactly like I wanted, until it didn't. It started small. A motion alert triggered at 3:17 a.m. on a Thursday. I was asleep. I didn't notice it until the next morning when I saw the notification on my lock screen, movement detected. I assumed Harvey had gotten up to drink water or barked at a car outside, so I pulled up the recording. The app stored clips for 12 hours. The video was black and white, static, hissing faintly in the background. At first I didn't see anything. Then a flicker. Movement in the lower right corner. Not fast, not sudden, just movement. Like someone had passed by the edge of the frame. No sound, no barking. Just a shape that disappeared almost as quickly as it appeared. I assumed it was a shadow, maybe Harvey's tail. I didn't think much of it until the next night when I got another alert. Same time, 3:16 a.m. I checked the clip while sitting in bed, the blue light from my phone glowing against the sheets. This time, the movement was closer, not just a flicker, a silhouette, a child, standing near the middle of the frame, still, facing the camera. No sound, no explanation, just standing there for 10 full seconds. I paused the clip, rewatched it. The figure didn't move, didn't blink. The head was slightly tilted, hair flat against the skull, thin arms at the side. Then, on the 11th second, it stepped out of frame. I sat up in bed, skin crawling. The apartment was dead silent. Harvey was curled up at the foot of the bed, fast asleep. I checked the front door, locked, windows secure, nothing out of place. I even walked through every room, phone in one hand, bat in the other, but the place was empty. I told myself it was a glitch, an old recording stuck in the app's cache. Maybe the previous owner had saved a test clip, but the timestamp was real, and the clip auto-deleted before I could screen record it. The next morning, I messaged the woman I'd bought the monitor from. I kept it casual, just asked if she'd ever had any weird issues with the device. She didn't respond. That night, I deleted the app. I unplugged the camera, told myself I was being ridiculous. The problem was solved. But 2 days later, a toy appeared on my front porch. A small stuffed elephant, dirty, weather-worn. The tag was nearly torn off, but one word was still visible in faded red stitching. Danny. I don't know anyone named Danny. I don't have a kid, and I don't own any toys. I didn't touch the elephant. I used the edge of a pizza box to scoop it up and dropped it in the dumpster behind my building. The fabric was stiff, sun-bleached, and damp, like it had been buried or soaked through. I tried not to think about how it got there. I didn't want to ask myself if someone had left it on purpose or how they knew my address. I hadn't told anyone about the camera. The app was still deleted. The camera unplugged. I even checked the bookshelf where I'd left it. Nothing looked disturbed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the lens had still been pointed at me even in the dark. 2 days passed. Quiet. No toys. No alerts. No movement. I tried to settle back into normal, let Harvey sit next to me on the couch while I worked. Stream old movies to keep the silence from feeling so dense. But then, Sunday night, as I got into bed, I noticed the hallway light was on. I always turn it off. Always. It's muscle memory by now. I walked out, switched it off, and turned back toward the bedroom, and the living room TV flicked on. Just static. Loud, gray, buzzing snow. My stomach dropped. I don't have cable. No antenna either. I hadn't seen static on that screen in years. It should have just been a black input screen. I froze in the doorway, staring at the screen, and then it cut to black, like someone pressed power. I didn't sleep. I stayed up with every light on, bat beside me, phone unlocked and ready. In the morning, I decided to reinstall the app just to see, just to check the settings. It loaded back to the home screen instantly, like it had never been gone. The last known device was already listed. No login needed. I checked the storage tab. There was a video from last night, 2:58 a.m. My finger hovered over the play icon for a long time before I pressed it. The feed was dark, grainy, barely lit. But the camera had been plugged in. Someone had reconnected it. The video showed the living room, Harvey asleep, the couch, the coffee table. Then, from the right side, a shape entered the frame. The child. Again. Short, thin, same tilted head. But this time, he wasn't standing still. He walked toward the camera, slowly, no sound. Each step careful, soft. When he reached the edge of the frame, he paused, then reached up toward the lens. His hand pressed against it, and he whispered, "You came back." I dropped the phone. I backed away like it could reach through the screen. I could still hear the whisper low and dry like wind through paper. I reset the camera, deleted the app again, took the camera itself, wrapped it in 2 layers of garbage bags, and dropped it off a bridge into the river 5 miles away. Gone. Done. I didn't care about the $40. I didn't care if it could be explained. I just wanted it out of my life. That night, I slept. The first full night in weeks. Harvey was calm. No noise from the hallway. No TV static. peace until I woke up at 5:12 a.m. to the sound of something rolling on the floor. I sat up fast, heart pounding. Harvey stood in the hallway, ears flat, growling low. I got up and followed his stare. Something was sitting at the end of the hall, round, soft. I flicked on the light. It was the elephant. The same one, same tear across the leg, same name tag, Danny, sitting perfectly upright in the exact center of the hallway. And this time, its head was turned to face the bedroom. I didn't touch the elephant this time. I didn't throw it out. I didn't want to provoke whatever was doing this, because by then I knew it wasn't just tech. It wasn't just a glitchy camera or some rogue signal bouncing between apartments. Someone or something had found a way into my home, into my routines, into my life. I took a photo of the toy from 5 different angles and set up my phone to record it overnight, just to see if it moved. I pushed it to the far end of the hallway with my foot, not touching it directly, then shut every light off and went back to bed. Door cracked just enough for Harvey to come and go. At 3 a.m., I woke up sweating, heart thumping like I'd just been jolted from a fall. No sound, no dream I could remember. Just the kind of raw, full-body alertness that only shows up when something's wrong. I stayed in bed, breathing shallow, and listened. Then softly I heard it, a dragging sound. Light, faint, but unmistakable, like fabric over tile. I sat up and stared at the crack in the door. Harvey wasn't in the room. The dragging stopped. Silence. Then, a soft, childlike voice, far too close. "Don't turn around yet." I froze, my whole body locked. It came from behind the wall, behind my bed, which backed up to the living room. I waited, sweat running down my back, every muscle screaming not to move. Then a second whisper, clearer this time, as if it was inside the room. "Now." I jumped up, spun on the bed, grabbed the bat from the corner, but there was nothing there. The door creaked open wider. Harvey stood at the threshold, tail between his legs, growling low and steady. I didn't sleep again. I sat in the kitchen until dawn, the hallway light on, phone in my hand, thumb hovering over 911 more times than I could count. I played the footage back at 7 a.m. The phone had captured it all time-stamped, no tricks. At 2:44 a.m., the elephant began to move, not a lot, just a shift, a lean, like something underneath it was breathing. At 2:58, the audio picked up faint whispering. I boosted the volume, rewound. The voice was childlike, but wrong, warped at the edges, like it had been recorded through a pipe. It repeated the same phrase over and over. "Don't forget him. Don't forget Danny. Don't forget him." Then the elephant tipped backward, fell to its side, and slid an inch closer to the camera, like it had been pulled. I turned the footage off. I couldn't watch more. I drove to work with my hands shaking, kept checking the back seat at every red light. I told a coworker in vague terms, just weird stuff with my baby cam, nothing more. And she nodded slowly, eyes wide, and said, "You should check local death records, seriously. The internet's full of stories like that. Sometimes you can match a name." That stuck in my head all day. I got home that evening, opened my laptop, and searched for Danny Jaon, child death Jaon. My city name, Jaon. Apartment. I didn't expect anything to come up, but I was wrong. In 2006, a fire broke out in a third-floor apartment on the opposite side of my complex, same layout, same building age. A boy named Daniel M. died from smoke inhalation while hiding under his bed. He was 6. A toy elephant was found next to him, half melted, pressed to his chest. I felt ice run down my spine. I kept reading. There were rumors of the building being off, people reporting cold spots, missing objects, things turning on by themselves. One tenant said her baby monitor kept triggering at 3 a.m., even when it was turned off. The entry ended there, just an archive. No updates, no follow-up. I sat there in the blue light of the screen, wondering how I'd brought that name, that object, that presence into my home. I hadn't moved buildings. I hadn't searched for this. I'd just bought a used baby monitor for $40. The elephant was still in the hallway when I went to bed. But this time, when I passed it, I noticed something new. Its head had turned slightly. And this time it was looking straight at the camera I'd thrown into the river. I didn't remember picking the camera back up. That's what scared me most. I sat on the floor with it in my hands, cord coiled neatly beside it, power light blinking faintly like it had never been unplugged, like it had never been gone. I had thrown it into the river, I know I had, but there it was, resting in my lap like it belonged. I checked the bottom. Same serial number, same chipped corner from when I dropped it the first time. I should have destroyed it right then and there, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. There was a pressure behind my eyes, like something whispering low in a language I couldn't understand, telling me not to interfere, not to interrupt. I set the camera on the bookshelf again, same angle, same setup, and downloaded the app without even thinking about it. My thumb moved before I could stop it, tapping through permissions and logins like it was routine. It felt like I was watching myself from a few inches to the left, not quite inside my own body. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the armchair across from the couch, lights off, Harvey tucked against my leg, and waited. The screen on my phone stayed lit, showing the grainy feed. For hours, nothing. Then, at 3:01 a.m., the motion alert chimed once. The elephant was gone, just gone from the frame. I stood up slowly, heart thudding in my throat, and scanned the room, empty, quiet. But then the camera feed flickered, 1 frame, 2 frames, then a full drop of signal. When it came back, the elephant was sitting upright again, not in the hallway, but on the couch, right in the middle, head turned, staring directly at the camera, at me. I backed up until my knees hit the kitchen counter. I turned on every light, checked every door, but the locks were still set, no windows open, no signs of entry. And yet, something had been here, something that could move objects, manipulate tech, get in and out without leaving a trace. I picked the elephant up with tongs and stuffed it into a trash bag. I drove it to the next town and dumped it in a gas station dumpster behind a locked fence. 2 hours later, I got a notification from the app. Audio detected 3:16 a.m. I hesitated. My fingers trembled above the screen. Then I played it. The sound was low, garbled, the soft static of an empty room. And then a whisper. Not like the others, not raspy or childlike. This one was deep, close to the mic. And it said only this: "You are the monitor now." I dropped the phone. Harvey barked once short and sharp and ran toward the bedroom. I followed, adrenaline flooding me, and stopped cold in the doorway. The mirror over my dresser was fogged, wet, like someone had breathed against it. But the room was cold, no humidity, no heat. And in the center of the fog was a handprint, small, 5 fingers pressed hard like they'd pushed through the glass from the other side. I turned around. No one was there, but the hallway light had gone out. A moment later, the monitor chimed again. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. I knew it wasn't Harvey. It wasn't the camera. It was me. I was the one being recorded now, watched, cataloged, tested. Something was using my own home, my own devices, my own habits to get closer. I walked to the kitchen window and pulled the curtain back. And for the first time, I saw him. A child or something wearing the shape of one standing perfectly still under the glow of the street lamp. Same flat hair, same slight tilt of the head, no emotion on the face, no sound, just watching. He raised one hand, and in it, dangling from 2 fingers, was the trash bag I dumped the elephant in, still tied shut, untouched. And then, without blinking, he set it down on my welcome mat and stepped backward until he disappeared into the dark. I didn't open the trash bag. I didn't even touch it. I stared at it from behind the peephole for over an hour, waiting to see if anything moved. Nothing did, but I knew better than to believe it was safe. I left it on the porch, locked the door, and duct taped a towel across the bottom seam so nothing could slip in. Then I took every mirror in the apartment, the bathroom, the hallway, the one above my dresser, and turned them all to face the walls, covered them in towels. I didn't want to see anymore, not because I was afraid of what I'd find, but because I was starting to recognize it, the thing in the reflection. The way it stood, the angle of the neck, the shape of the eyes. It wasn't just mimicking someone, it was mimicking me. But wrong, slower, too stiff, like a child acting out what it thought a person was. I stopped using the monitor, unplugged it again, deleted the app, changed the Wi-Fi password, powered off every smart device in the apartment, but it didn't matter. That night, at 3:09 a.m., my bedroom TV turned on by itself. No signal, just static, and not the usual kind, not gray snow or audio buzz. It was quiet, black screen. Then a face, just barely visible, lit from beneath like a flashlight under a chin. The image was fuzzy, low-res, like an old VHS paused mid-play. I sat up in bed, frozen. Harvey stood at the foot of the bed, ears pinned back, tail low. He wasn't barking. He was staring at the screen and trembling. The face didn't speak, didn't move, but the screen did. It began to pulse, just slightly. A rhythm, like breathing, or like a heartbeat. Mine. I turned the TV off at the wall, yanked the plug, and left it on the floor face down. Then I opened every drawer and started packing. I didn't have a plan. I didn't care where I went. I just knew I wasn't staying another night. At sunrise, I loaded Harvey into the car and drove north, No destination, no stops. I didn't answer texts, didn't take calls. I told myself I'd find a motel, regroup, think. But 2 hours out of town, my phone buzzed once. No number, just a file, a video. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew I shouldn't have, but I tapped it anyway. It was footage from the monitor, only this time the angle was wrong. It wasn't facing the couch. It was higher. It was looking down, from above, like it had been mounted in the ceiling, watching the whole room. And there I was, in the frame, asleep on the couch, Harvey next to me. No movement, no sound, until the final 10 seconds, when something walked into view, the child again, or the imitation of one. But this time, it crouched beside the couch, watched me for a full 6 seconds, then turned its head slowly, painfully, slowly, toward the ceiling, toward the camera itself, and smiled. Not a warm smile, not a child's smile, a cold, flat expression pulled too far at the corners, as if it was aware, as if it knew it was being watched and didn't care. I deleted the video. Factory reset the phone, tossed it out at a gas station bin. From there, I bought a burner at a roadside stand and checked into a nameless off-ramp motel with flickering signage and a front desk behind bulletproof glass. That night, I didn't sleep in the bed. I sat in the tub with the curtain drawn, knife in hand, and every light on. I told myself I would wait it out. A week, a month, until it lost interest. But it didn't. At 3:11 a.m., the motel's alarm clock went off. Full volume, static hiss, no music, no station. I pulled the cord, ripped it from the outlet. The noise kept going. I smashed it against the floor. Silence. But when I looked up, scratched into the condensation on the bathroom mirror, were 4 words. Plug it back in. And underneath, drawn with a child's finger, was a crude, looping sketch of a toy elephant sitting in the middle of a bed, smiling. I didn't check out of the motel. I left the key on the dresser and walked out before the sun came up. I drove without music, without GPS, eyes flicking constantly to the rearview mirror. Every stretch of empty highway felt watched. Every overpass, a stage. I pulled into a diner an hour outside town, half the neon burned out. A waitress who looked like she hadn't blinked since the Reagan administration, and I just sat there, letting the coffee go cold. When she asked if I was okay, I said I'd lost my dog. She nodded like she'd heard that before and gave me a slice of pie for free. Harvey was fine. He was in the car, sleeping with one paw against the dash. But something inside me had cracked. It wasn't just the footage, or the mirror, or the clock hissing in static. It was that I was starting to feel different, displaced, like someone else was looking out of my eyes. I drove until sunset and stopped at a self-storage facility, paid cash. Told the kid at the desk I needed a private unit with power. He gave me a look but didn't ask questions. Inside, I set up what I had left, a cot, a lamp, and the elephant. It was waiting for me in the back seat when I left the diner. I hadn't put it there. I hadn't even brought it back. But there it was, sitting perfectly upright, seat belted in, facing forward like it belonged. I didn't throw it away this time. I was past that. Every attempt to destroy it, hide it, abandon it, it came back. Not damaged, not angry, just patient. I placed it in the center of the unit, surrounded it with lines of salt from a gas station bag, and sat across from it, waiting, watching, if it was going to come. I wanted it to come here, not in my home, not in my sleep, not behind another mirror or through another blinking device. But nothing happened. Not that night, not the next, just silence. I started to believe it might be over, that I'd exhausted it, that maybe it had moved on. I almost felt stupid for how far I'd run, how many things I'd thrown away, until the power in the unit cut out. No storm, no surge, no reason, just gone. And in the darkness, I heard breathing, not from across the room, from behind me. I turned slowly, knife raised. Nothing. But the breathing continued, soft, uneven, the way a child breathes when they're trying not to cry. I backed into the far corner, pulled out the burner phone, turned on the flashlight, and the beam hit a shape. Just for a second, a child-sized figure crouched behind my cot, facing the wall, hair plastered flat, head tilted too far to one side. Then the bulb died. Silence again. When the lights came back just as suddenly as they'd gone, the unit was empty. The elephant was gone. The salt lines were undisturbed. I checked the cot, the walls, the entire building. Nothing. But when I opened the door to leave, a man was standing outside, mid-30s, clean jacket, work boots. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey," he said, "you left this in the office." He held out the baby monitor. My baby monitor, clean, polished, power light glowing. I didn't touch it. I asked, "Who gave that to you?" He shrugged. "Guy dropped it off. Said you forgot it. Your unit B-17, right?" I nodded, slow. He handed it to me, turned, and walked away. I stood there, staring at the device in my hand. It was warm, like it had just been used. I powered it on. The screen flickered to life. No signal at first, just grain. Then a feed appeared. My apartment, my living room, the bookshelf. But there was no camera. I hadn't set one back up. And yet, somehow, it was showing me a live view because Harvey was in frame, barking, scratching at the door, alone. Because I wasn't there. I hadn't told anyone where I was, hadn't posted, hadn't shared a single thing. But it knew. The monitor was never just a device. It was a channel, a key. And now, it was pointing me back toward home. I drove back with the monitor glowing in the passenger seat, like a small, obedient eye. The feed didn't cut out. It didn't flicker. It just followed Harvey around the apartment in slow, patient pans from couch to window to door, like it knew what mattered most to me. Like it was showing me not what was happening, but what I stood to lose. My hand shook the entire ride. I couldn't stop imagining what I'd find. The door wide open, toys scattered across the carpet, a figure standing perfectly still in the center of my living room, just watching the dog sleep. But when I got there, everything looked untouched. The door was locked, the lights off. Harvey barked twice when he heard my keys, and then came sprinting into the hallway, tail wagging hard enough to knock into the wall. Relief hit so fast, it felt like nausea. I dropped to one knee, held him until he stopped trembling, and then turned toward the living room and stopped. The monitor was still on, still in my car, but now the feed was playing on the TV. No remote, no input, just the live footage blown up to 50 inches, showing the back of my own head crouched in the hallway, holding my dog. I turned slowly toward the corner of the ceiling, toward the spot where the lens would be. And there it was, the camera, mounted, tilted, blinking red. The exact same model I'd thrown away, burned, buried, replaced. I walked toward it like I was underwater, every step slow, every sound dulled. I reached up to rip it down, and then I saw it. In the bottom corner of the screen, a shape, just barely visible. A small figure sitting on the couch, legs dangling off the edge, face turned away, but slowly, as if sensing my eyes, it turned. First the shoulders, then the head, then the eyes, dead on into the lens, into me. It didn't blink. It didn't speak. It just raised one small hand and pointed downward. I didn't want to look. I knew what I'd see, but my body moved anyway. I stepped around the couch, and there it was. A crawl space I'd never noticed before, the kind that blends in behind baseboards or under loose paneling. The door had been pulled open, and inside, tucked between insulation and shadow, was a nest, toys, blankets, scratch marks on the wall, crayon drawings, all of them of the same thing. A boy sitting on a couch smiling, a man standing behind him, head turned, a dog lying at his feet. The living room exactly as it was now. I leaned in closer. One drawing was newer, still tacky with ink. This one showed just the man-me sleeping, the child sitting cross-legged in front of him. The man's eyes were blacked out. The final drawing, shoved behind the others, was in a different style. Messier, angrier. It showed two versions of me, one inside the house, smiling, the other outside the window staring in. I backed away, heart pounding. The room felt smaller, the walls too tight. The camera on the ceiling tilted slowly, following my movement. I took Harvey and walked out without even turning off the lights. But just before I shut the door, I looked back one more time. The TV was off, the couch was empty, the crawl space was sealed, and sitting in the middle of the rug was the elephant, waiting. I didn't go far. I parked 2 blocks away, engine off. Harvey curled up in the passenger seat while I stared at the glow of my apartment window. I knew it was over, not in the sense that it would stop, but in the sense that I had finally crossed the last line between observer and participant. The camera wasn't just watching anymore. It was teaching, shaping, and I'd followed every prompt, plugged it in, looked when I shouldn't have, answered when no one called. I could feel it in my bones now, like pressure from the inside. A version of myself slowly building beneath the surface. The monitor still sat in my lap, quiet, dark. But I knew if I turned it on, the feed would be live. And this time, it wouldn't be showing my apartment. It would be showing me where I sat, how I breathed, what time I blinked, because I was the footage now, the loop, the lesson. At 3, 0 a.m. Exactly. The monitor powered itself on. No sound, no prompt. Just a slow rise in screen brightness, and then the image. A close-up of my face, sleeping. Only I wasn't asleep. Not yet, but it was recorded. Already stored. Already waiting for me to become the moment I hadn't lived yet. The camera wasn't just a camera anymore. It was a map, a set of coordinates for behavior, a model for how things were supposed to go, and something behind the lens was learning. I don't know how long I sat there. When the sun started to rise, the monitor finally flicked off. The screen went black. I placed it on the passenger seat beside Harvey, drove back home. The door was open, not broken, just ajar, like someone had stepped out to smoke and would be back in a minute. Inside, the air was still, warm, lived in, like nothing had happened, like nothing ever had happened. The crawl space was sealed. The couch was empty. The elephant gone. But on the bookshelf where the camera used to sit, there was something new. A single photo, printed glossy, framed in cheap plastic. Me holding Harvey. Both of us smiling. The living room perfectly staged behind us. I don't remember the moment. Don't remember anyone taking it. But there we were, like it had always been true. I stood there a long time, staring at that photo, until I finally understood. It wasn't about haunting, or signals, or even the boy. It was about recording, repetition, replacing, not scaring me, absorbing me. One habit at a time, one reaction, one sleepless night. All of it quietly teaching me how to behave like the version of myself it had already captured. And now that I'd followed the script, now that I'd sat where I was supposed to, seen what it wanted me to see, spoken my lines, the loop was closed. The footage was perfect, the story finished. And what does a monitor do when the behavior is locked in? When the model is ready, it plays it again, and again, and again. So I leave it now. The apartment, the photo, the routine. I'm not running, not anymore. I'm just stepping out of the tape, letting it play without me. Because if I stay, I'll stop knowing which parts are mine. And one day I'll wake up to find a camera watching me from the ceiling, and nothing behind my eyes but static. Thanks for spending tonight with me. Sleep well, friends. And if you see a little red light blinking in the dark, maybe don't look right at it. Just turn over. Good night.